Welcome to Module 4, Business Planning. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of this thing. So, in the beginning, let's get legal. We have to get legal. So we need to decide, are we doing an LLC or PLLC? In your specific state, it will determine PLLC versus LLC. LLC is limited liability. That just means there's a separation between you and your business. If something, God forbid, happens, I don't want someone coming after me if I did something in the business, or if I did something in the business, I don't want them coming after me. So there's that separation. And so that's what getting legal about. So once you've visited the website, northwestregisteredagent.com, and put in your state, it will tell you what your state requires. I know Florida's LLC. That's just a hint. That's free. You don't have to Google that one. The next step will be determining LLC versus corporation. If you're a single provider, like I am when I open my practice, as a single LLC provider, that means the business income passes to you. Now, always consult with an attorney about these things and an accountant to just be sure that because everyone's situation is unique. And so you want to protect your individual assets. So LLC versus corporation. You may start as an LLC and you may later transform into a corporation. And as we did, we opened as an LLC and later we transferred into a corporation. So those are things to consider. Next step would be drafting up your articles of incorporation. That's saying, who are your people? Who's the CEO? Who's the secretary? Who's the who's? In your articles of incorporation, that's what you're going to submit to the state. That's what's going to get us legal. That's what's going to open your business. And so there will be a sample attached of an articles of incorporation. They're really easy. You just plug in, Amanda Gaskin, I am the chief executive officer. My sister Rachel is the whatever, I don't remember what I made Rachel, but you plug those in and then you submit those to your state. Once you submitted that to your state, they will send you back. So now you have to wait. Don't get overzealous. Take a deep breath. Do some more research. You submit that to your state. Once you get that back and it's certified, let's apply for an EIN. That's your employer identification number. An EIN is free. Let me say that again. An EIN is free. If you Google EIN, pops up someone who's going to agree for $149 to get you your EIN. Honey, it's free. Just do the application. If you did the test to become whatever you are, nurse practitioner, PA, or physician, you can fill out an EIN application and not pay someone $149 because you're going to need those $149 down the road for something else. The articles of incorporation, that is not free. Each state is different. Florida, I believe it was last $200+. So to become a business, to open your business in Florida, it's like $200. EIN is free. That's federal. So once we've got our articles of incorporation submitted, and then we've applied for our EIN number. Now, while we're waiting for all that to come in, we need to get that other very, 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 very important piece of documentation. Remember, the Medicare opt-out. Attached, there will be that form. The Medicare opt-out. That's that thing that keeps us out of trouble with CMS and Medicare because we're accepting cash payments. And you'll also have to always remind your patients because they'll say, well, I had this done with you. Can I just have a copy of my bill to send it? Absolutely not if it's Medicare, because that's what the opt-out form is all about. Now, once that EIN has returned and the state has given you your certified copy of your articles of incorporation, it's time to head over to the bank. We need to open a business bank account. Let's do all these steps in that order to, again, remember we talked about it. We're avoiding delays. We're avoiding headaches. We're avoiding frustration. If you go over to the bank and you don't have your EIN, you will be traipsing out of the bank without a bank account. If you head into the bank without that actual EIN letter, not just the number. Let me stress that. You need the paper. If you go in without it, you will walk out without a business bank account. Okay? So let's avoid frustrations. Now we open our business bank account. You open it with whomever you like. I think that you get better quality customer relations with a smaller community bank. I am very fortunate that my community bank is one of the big boys, but it's just right outside my door. So whomever you have established relationships with, I had an established relationship with a bank, so I continued my business relationships with them. But I'm telling you what, some small community bank came calling the other day and I was quite impressed. I might be looking to make some changes. So whomever you've established that relationship with, you're going to need them, because later down the road when we need some funding, we want to have that established relationship. So let's open us a business bank account, and we don't need to have millions of dollars to put in there. Let's just get the account open. Let's start. Next step, let's start building some business credit. You're going to need credit. I don't care how you've operated, Dave Ramsey, in your personal life. Business is not that. Debt is a necessary part of business. Don't shoot me. Don't shoot me. We need business credit. Business credit is separate from you. Now, we'll talk about you, but we need to start building some business credit. And there are a couple little hacks that have worked phenomenally. The first is, let's open a business credit card. A business credit card with Capital One, Navy Federal, PenFed, your local credit union. All of them are amazing. Wells Fargo, whomever you bank with, Bank of America, you want to apply for a business credit card. That business credit card, you're going to take that and we're going to set that to the side, because we need to start getting our name out there. Another thing that's very, 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 very important. Let's make sure the address is consistent on all applications from this day moving forward. Let's make sure that your phone number is the same moving forward. Let's avoid using your home address, because you will later have to go back and play cleanup. So if you have, already have your office space available, let's start using that office address in the beginning. If not, get a commercial post office box that's for the business that you'll be using as that business address, and then you'll change it later. But let's avoid using residential, because you want everything to show up with your business and your name being consistent, because we're building business credit. Secondly, open a Uline, U-L-I-N-E, a Uline account. It's one of those vendor accounts that they're phenomenal with reporting on your business's behalf. So you'll buy something, they'll give you a credit line, I don't know, $1,000, and you order some paper towels and you order a mop and you order a dustpan, and then you make the payments on it, and they're going to report that on your business's behalf. These other that's just like that is Quill. Quill, same deal. You'll order some paper towels, some cleaning supplies, and that's going to report on your business behalf, because we need to start building business credit. We need to say that your business is credit worthy, because we're going to need some funding. We're opening a medical practice here. Unless you're rich, and if you are, you can leave your beloved Amanda an endowment. The next step is, let's start writing that business plan. You ready? Do not get scared. I'm here. Remember, your fairy godmother's got your back. I recommend at this point, this is where you reach out to my friends over at the SBDC, Small Business Development Coalition. The SBDC is located throughout the United States of America. So if you are in Utah, you put Utah SBDC. If you are in Montana, Montana SBDC in your Google search, and in Florida. All of ours are connected to the university. So I worked with the SBDC out of University of South Florida. Go Bulls. And they helped with this part of the plan, the writing the business plan. It gets scary, but I've got you. You ready? All right, let's do it. We're going to start with the financial planning. In that financial portion, we're going to start looking at, let's estimate some costs right up front. What do we think this is going to cost us? How much is it going to cost to get an EKG machine in there? How much is it going to cost to get tongue depressors? How much is it going to cost to get an exam bed? Let's estimate that up front. How much is that rent? Those malpractice insurance? How much is all that going to cost? And let's start getting that onto a spreadsheet. Again, these are estimates, but we want to know these costs up front because we're planning to open a business. The next thing we need to estimate is operating costs. Things you never anticipated. Like, of course, you knew that you'd have utilities. But how much do your labs cost? How much are your medications if you're dispensing from the office? How much is your cleaning service? How much are you going to be paying in payroll? Again, these are estimates. As we present ourselves and we try to make ourselves, we apply for funding, be it from crowdfunding or from a loan or even from angel investors or from your family or from your own personal bank account. You want to know how much does it look like we're going to have to spend to get this thing going? And then how much is it going to cost to keep it going until it starts picking up some momentum and taking care of itself? In our experience, when I did the estimates, I made the estimates out for 6 months. I said, I think that housekeeping will be $100 a month. And I think that I'll need $600 for the housekeeper. And I wrote that number down and then, kept all that. But that was a good rule of thumb that worked well for us is I did 6 months of expenses when I did my initial business plan. The next, we're going to estimate revenue. Now you can never know until you know, but if you're doing DPC, you're doing direct primary care, you need to figure out based on your pricing structure, which we'll talk about in a moment, how many patients do you need to see? How many need to be enrolled in a membership with that reoccurring payment to meet your bottom line? So if we just said it takes us $5,000 in operating cost a month, how many patients do we need to have enrolled in order to break even with that $5,000? Got it? Good. And then start setting some goals. How many patients over how much time? In the beginning, we opened in August of 2021. I had a goal of having 100 patients enrolled by January of 2022. We had 100 patients enrolled by November. So from August to November, we had 100 patients enrolled and we did a big balloon release and we're super happy. But let's start setting some goals so you know where you're working towards. Okay? Because I don't want you to be what? Frustrated. That's right. The next, let's start researching some funding options. How are we going to fund this operation? Because it takes money to make money. That's what my dad taught me. There are loans from your bank. There's SBA loans. There are private loans. There's maybe you've had some personal savings. Maybe there's some angel investors or you want a grant. There are so many opportunities. So let's start researching first about how are we going to know how much we need? Going back, we estimated our costs. So now we've got to find that payer source. Another option, I have a second business and something I use was, I know this is frowned upon, don't y'all whoop me. I use credit cards. For my other business, I took out 5 credit cards in that business's name. And I use those credit limits to build that business. And then as that business started to generate revenue, I paid off the credit cards. And within 9 months, all the credit cards that I used to do our startup costs had already been repaid. So that is an option, but you have to be very disciplined. And if you know discipline is not your strong suit, maybe don't play that game. And then lastly, under the financial planning is clean up your own house. What does that mean, Amanda? Make sure your own personal credit is tip top, because you may sometimes be looked at to be a personal guarantee or a personal guarantor, meaning you are backing the business. So in the beginning, as the business is being established, there's no difference between Amanda and Ultimate Health. So at some times I had to kind of like co-sign on behalf of Ultimate Health, but I can only do that if my own personal credit was in line. So if you need some credit repair, there are numerous people who are available to help with credit repair and start getting those things in order, making those phone calls. If you'll email me, I'll send you a guide that has all kinds of templates in it that can really get your credit in order. I remember a book I used to read when I first became a nurse called Girl, Get Your Credit Straight. And so as a baby nurse back in the year of 2006, I read Girl, Get Your Credit Straight. And so, that's how I set the foundation. But make sure you have your personal credit in line because you're going to need that. So we're going to take a short break and I'll come back with a little bit more. Welcome back. So now under that business development, let's talk about your business. What are we going to call you? We need to come up with a business name. A name is very, very important. But before you select a name, I want you to think about something. Where do you see you going? Where do you see this going? Do you want to call it Gaskins? Because if I call it Gaskins, then I only see it going here. But if in my dream, one day there will be 6 locations and will be a franchise, then maybe I don't want to call it something so personal. Also, I'm in the city of Leesburg. Do I really want to pigeonhole my business into a name that incorporates Leesburg? But what if I open a second location in Winter Haven or in Apopka? Do I really want to pigeonhole us into a name? So as you start to think about your name, think about where you're going. Ours is Ultimate Health Direct Primary Care, and I put Direct Primary Care in the name as an indicator that I intend to never, ever, ever accept health insurance, which was to my sister's dismay, but I was intentional. I knew what I meant, and I meant what I said. Also, when I selected Ultimate Health, I wanted us to be all that we could be. I wanted us to be just as much a one-stop shop as possible. So when you start thinking about that name, make sure that name embraces and embodies where you want to go. Where do you see your business going? Do you always want it to be small business, or do you see something bigger for yourself? The next thing is to head right on over to your fictitious name registration. And let's be sure that name's not taken. So for Ultimate Health, to my dismay, there was an Ultimate Health already, but it wasn't Ultimate Health Direct Primary Care. Also, this is important when you go and start doing a website, you want to see if that domain is available. So when you're dreaming of your name, you're putting it in a hat, you're having a name hosting party, make sure that the name has not already been taken. Make sure that the name embodies where you're going. And it's easy. I remember I was thinking about aristocrat. Well, I couldn't even say aristocrat without stumbling. So I was like, how are you going to name your business Aristocrat Health? Your patient will be like, oh, no. So be sure it's something that kind of rolls off the tip of the tongue, that embodies where you're going, and that is not already taken and the domain is available. Okay? Next, it's your logo. Your logo. There are colors that embody healthcare. Blue is associated with healthcare. It's associated with trust. So you want your logo to be something that's healthcare directed. You don't want your logo to look like a nail spa or to look like a mechanic shop. You can use online resources. There are local professionals who will help you, but let's start thinking about that logo. And remember, this logo is going to be on your building. It's going to be on your lab coat. It's going to be on flyers. It's going to be on commercials on TV. It's going to be on billboards and magazines. So make sure that that logo, it stands out. You want to one day be like Nike with your branding, where the logo just stands for itself. If I took the words off of it, you'd still know that this is Ultimate Health Direct Primary Care. Okay? Cool. I want you to now start building that website. There are a couple key things that must be on our website. Our bio. When someone starts to look us up, you know how they roll. They go straight to our website and they want to know who you are. Please have a picture. You need a picture. So head on over, schedule some, we don't have glamour shots anymore, schedule some headshots. You need a picture. They want to see your smiling face. Do not have that stock photo. They want to see a list of your services. What do you do? What are you offering? Are you offering ear cleaning, pap smears? What are you offering? And then pricing. That's a huge, huge, huge thing in direct primary care is we have transparency of pricing. There are no surprises. On our website, it should say if you offer IV services, how much is an IV? If your primary care services, how much is it for my age range if you decide to do age-related tiering? That should all be right there, clear on the website, so that when someone calls, they've already done their research. They're just calling to make an appointment, not to get some of that basic information. Remember, your website is supposed to be able to answer a lot of those questions on your behalf. We must have a privacy policy. We have to have a disclaimer that says this is not insurance. Hear me, kids. This is not insurance, or we're not a healthcare plan. So you have to have a little disclaimer written in there that says that. You'll also want to have your hours, your contact information with your address, and all your social media handles. And you need all the handles. You need to be everywhere, because we'll talk about SEO. You'll need to get your SEO. That's your visibility on the internet, because people are coming from the internet. So you want to be all over the internet. The next is I want you to start thinking about your service list. What are you going to offer? Are you doing IV hydration? on the side of your primary care? Are you offering women's health services? Even if you're primary care, are you doing pap smears or are you referring out? If you're a male, maybe you don't feel comfortable doing those, or you feel like your female patients wouldn't feel comfortable. And let me just say, women go to male gynecologists. So if you're a male and you have a direct primary care, you can offer female or gynecological services. You'll just need to have a chaperone, but it's wonderful. You want to be all things to your patient. You want to provide that quality care and not piece out their care, and they may miss screenings if you're sending them out. Just a little tidbit. Are you going to offer ear cleaning, EKGs, all those things? We want to start thinking about our service list. When I was building my practice, I went down to the Dollar Tree and I got poster boards, and I had one poster board that was like the countdown to ultimate health and all the things like what I'm telling you. I had them on there with check boxes because I'm a nurse forever and ever. So I had red check boxes, and then I just checked the boxes as I did it. And then I had a service list, poster board, and I was just writing different things. And as I was still working at my W-2 job, the things that we were doing in the office, I'm like, okay, we want to offer that. And things I didn't want to do, I'm like, we will not offer that because I don't like taking toenails off. I think it's cringy. So I don't offer that. But I made sure it was listed on that poster board as our service list. And then there's your social media handles. Go ahead and start setting up your social medias. Something I did in the very beginning is I went straight over to all the social media and I took that logo, and the first page or first post was the logo. And I put something like coming soon or spring 2021 or whatever it was. I thought I was going to open in December, so I think it said December 2020. Things get delayed. That's why I'm here to tell you all about my roadblocks and stumbles along the journey so you don't have to have those. You want to head over to, again, each one of the social medias, make that first post your social, maybe your logo. And then as the process goes, people love that. They love to watch you grow. So if you're signing or you signed for the lease or you did a closing because you bought the building like we did, you might want to post that because it's building interest, it's building trust. They're getting into a relationship with you. It's just something that worked for us. And then lastly, you want to head over to health grades. Health grades was created as soon as you had an NPI number with your previous W-2 employer. So you want to head over to health grades and claim your profile because it's going to be showing your old practice. So you want to take claim of that so that you can control the narrative, because as new people are starting to hear about you, they're going to Google your name and that health grades is going to come up. So you want to make sure that now you have control of what's being said about you and your new practice. Because let's say you worked for a company that was not 5-star and your name on health grades is associated with that non-5-star organization. You want to get your name not associated with that non-5-star organization immediately. All right. So that's pretty much it under that business development. At this phase, now we got to start talking about DPC pricing structures and revenue. How are we going to make some money? I know it feels icky, but you're going into business, not one because you want to take care of people, but you need to take care of your family. You need to take care of yourself. So we need to get paid for that. Under direct primary care, we have a couple options of how we'll be reimbursed. There's a flat fee. That's the one we're under now. So I say, I don't care how old you are. It is a flat for us. It's $99. $99 a month, regardless of age or anything, $99. So you can do a flat fee. There's also age-related tiers. That's how we started in the beginning. So in the beginning, my pricing structure was if you were 18 to 39, it was $65 a month. If you were 40 to 64, it was $85 a month. And if you were older than 65, I charged $100 a month just because it was more complexity. I also threw in things in there like ministerial membership. So it was, $50 a month. I threw in things like an employer sponsored. So if an employer came to me, say, Joe's lawn service. Joe had to bring me 3 of his employees. Joe had to put his card on file, and I charged Joe $50 per employee that he enrolled. And so that was the employer sponsored membership. Those were our prices in the beginning when we first opened. So there's flat fee, There's age-related tiers, there's those employer-sponsored, and then there's family plans. If your practice will be taking care of families, maybe if mom and dad have a membership or just mom has a membership, maybe you'll add on the Tykes for $10. I know my girlfriend Selena at Preferred Family Care, Selena does family. And so she'll see mom for $50 a month, and each child is $10 a month, just an additional add-on, and she takes care of the entire family, and the families really, really love that over at Selena's practice. You may want to offer some annual discounts. These are all things to consider. What if I come to you and I say, hey, I'm so committed, I want to pay 1 year in advance. I don't want the monthly. Do you want to offer a discount for doing that? I do. I love it when they do that. I do. And then is there an enrollment fee? Now, there's a big thing in the DPC industry. Do you offer or do you charge an enrollment fee or do you not? I personally do not charge it. I feel like it's a barrier to care. And coming from the industry where I worked previously, I felt there were too many barriers anyway. And so I don't want another thing to stop you. If you've decided, hey, I need a new PCP, I want Ultimate Health to be my PCP, and I can swing the $99 a month. I don't want it to be, oh, and the first time you need to give me $75. I don't charge it. Some people do. I'm not saying it's anything wrong with it. It's just something we choose not to do. But that's something for you to consider. Re-enrollment. Let's talk about re-enrollment. So everyone loves you and they love what you give, except when it's time to pay. So things happen and people, bills change and they can't afford it. And that's fine. You have to decide what you're going to do with it. Do you have a plan for how many days can someone be late on their membership? At what point do you unenroll them? Do you charge a fee to re-enroll? Or do you say, I don't want you to come back at all? Those are things to consider. Something that we do, your payment is due, say on the 1st. You have 5 days to be late. It's going to just cost you a $25 late fee. So your initial payment is supposed to be $50. You are late. So when you finally make it on day 3 or 4, you pay a $25 late fee and we go on with our life. If we don't make that payment by day 5, we're going to unenroll you on day 6. And now it's $250 to re-enroll. Plus you need to make a membership payment. And the whole rationale is to discourage that, because you don't want someone who's only paying when it's convenient for them, because this is a business and you need that. Remember, we estimated a little while back that we would have X amount of patients. This is what we need to make our bottom line, to pay our cleaner, to pay for our medications. We need those monies coming in. So we have to strongly discourage the lukewarm people who want to pay when it's convenient for them. Now, of course, I'm not saying do not have a heart if someone runs into a financial hardship. Definitely offer whatever is laid on your heart to offer for that. Okay. And then some people charge what's called like a premium plan. You may charge a different fee based on level of access. Everybody gets it all. Everybody. But I opened this and I was still single. Let me just say that. And that has changed. I charge my flat monthly fee. You've got 24-hour access to me. What does 24-hour access mean? It means you can text me. I strongly encourage my patients to text me, and I've kind of trained them to text versus call. If it's absolutely necessary, but I can respond to a text if I'm in church. I can respond to a text if I'm at dinner with my husband. I can respond if I'm at a family barbecue. But if you call me and I'm in the middle of a quinceañera, I don't know what you're going to get. So, but some people decide to charge a premium plan where you say you can have unlimited office visits, but if you want textability, then it costs this. Or if you want to be able to have more, maybe you limit their office visits to 5 or 10 a year. I don't recommend that, but that is an option. I recommend the full, you can have it all, because what I've learned in the last 2.5 years is my patients are very respectful of my time. They do not abuse the privilege of having access to me. So I don't know. That's something to consider. Other revenue streams. RX markup. So let's say you decide to dispense medications from your office, which is one of those benefits in direct primary care. So someone is seeing me today and they've got an upper respiratory infection and I want to put them on doxycycline. I've got doxycycline in our medication cabinet. My girls go and print a label, count it up, and dispense it. That bottle of doxycycline from our wholesale distributor is maybe $12, and there's 100 pills in there. So you may say, okay, what I did was I went to GoodRx and I said, how much is a 2 weeks or a week's course of doxycycline? And GoodRx said, it's $12. I said, fine. At Ultimate Health, it's $10. And then you get a little bit of a revenue booster with that. So you bought this $12 bottle, you charge $10 per script, and you've got 10 scripts in that bottle, or whatever the math is. We're not doing math today. So that's an opportunity to generate some revenue. On top of, you've got your flat baseline, your monthly fees coming in. You can also generate some revenue with those prescription markups. The other is the lab markup. We draw labs in-house. That's always a big plus with direct primary care and drawing labs in-house, because it's convenience. It's my person's already missed work. They can get their labs drawn here, and then we can just keep this show on the road. Or I just saw you and I'm really curious about something. I can send you right down to our lab here in the office. Well, we have contracted rates with the lab. So say a CBC cost me $2. I may charge my patient $4. So a little opportunity for a little bit of a markup on labs. If we order a basic panel, which that's what I order on my patients, and that cost me $23, but the patient says, I want this checked every month. No problem. Give me $30 and I'll check that every month for you if that's what you so desire. So an opportunity to generate some revenue is lab markup. And then you have to decide, what are you going to do about non-members? Are you going to see non-members? Will you have a one-time visit rate? I know I've seen some primary care practices that they have their established memberships, but then they also will allow that one-off. The person's sick, or they're traveling, or their family member is a member and they're in town. Will you do that one-off, one-time urgent care visit, and how much? And you want to make sure that that rate is higher than your monthly rate, because you don't want someone who used to be a member who says, I don't want to pay $50 every month. I just rather pay $50 when I need to be seen. Well, no, maybe you're going to pay me $95. Maybe, if you decide to do those. I used to do them. I do not do them anymore. I have found Ultimate Health is about relationship. I am huge. I don't have one night stands. I have relationships. I am huge on relationship. And so those one-off visits, it felt ick to me. I didn't like it. And then the bad reviews that I have, I know I have bad reviews. 2 of them, they were from people who were not in relationship with, who did not get what they wanted. And so they wrote nasty reviews, whereas our primary care patients would never do that. They would talk to me if ever they had a concern. So that is up to you. It also exposes you to liability, because you don't know all the backstory. You don't know that you gave tramadol to that person who came in with the whatever, and they actually have a history of seizures, and now you just lowered their seizure threshold, and that's a whole pickle. Okay, so you decide, are you going to do those one-off visits? And if you do, please make it worth your while, because they're probably going to call you back. Oh, and another thing with that, so if I see you today as a one-off for a UTI and I give you an antibiotic, and in a week it's not resolved, am I going to see you again for that same fee, or am I charging you another fee or a reduced follow-up fee? All things to consider. I'm trying to help you. I want to help you. I don't want you to do what I did and figure it out on the job. I'm giving you a heads up. And lastly, under the pricing structure and revenue model is monthly versus 1-year contract. Do you want to do monthly? I love monthly. I love it. I love no contract. I don't like commitment. People don't like commitment. We're in a ghosting culture. I don't like commitment. So I don't make my patients sign a contract. You pay monthly, and if ever you decide you don't want to come back, hey, no worries. Give me a 30-day notice just so I know you're going to be leaving, and I will wish you well. God bless. Good night. Or do you want your patients to sign a contract? Do you want a 1-year contract? Do you want 3 months up front? These are all things to consider when you're considering your revenue streams. And then we'll talk about later some of those add-ons. I know you want to know about weight loss and sexual wellness and aesthetics. We'll talk about all of that later. So I'll see you in the next module.